I'm sorry, Eric. I just got to do better.
Do better at what?
I understand the question and I get where it's coming from, but this is on me and I just have to do better.
If you're new around here, Noah was imitating Kevin Stefanski. If we've heard that once, we've heard it a million times. My favorite part of that intro, though, was that it was Noah's idea, and that means he's finally coming along. The rose tinted glasses, he threw them. He's like that guy Jordan on Instagram. He
You
throws it,
need
but he's
to
not
you,
happy.
you need to pump the brakes a little bit with this whole thing. I, like many other
Oh,
Browns fans, are upset after this Vikings game, as we talked about on yesterday's show, and we're
as you
going to
should be.
continue to talk about throughout the weeks. But I am still very much of the mindset that Kevin Stefanski should stay the coach for at least the rest of the season. Well, if it goes really off the rockers and he completely loses the locker room or something like that, then I don't care. But right now, I don't think we're at a point where he needs to be absolutely fired. But yeah, his seat should be warm, as we spoke about yesterday. But this isn't about our opinions today. This is us reacting to the broader media around the world, mostly here in Cleveland, though, and what they're saying after what has been viewed as an abysmal game by Kevin Stefanski.
Which, for the record, I can't remember any other time of his seat being this warm and the media being so vocal on, okay, should we move on from Kevin Stefanski? Uh, and no other point in his tenure here has it been quite like this. So I think people are naturally fed up. But yeah, I mean, listen, I said yesterday, fire the guy. Let's just get it over with, rip the band aid off. I'm not against waiting till the end of the season, but even if he goes on to win 6 more games, I don't know, man. I just don't know at this point. What's to say he won't regress once again next year?
Yeah, you need to see a big change and a lot of things going on. We talk about stability with this organization. Well, we we have it, but at what cost? One playoff game, right? We talk about being clean, crisp, put together because we've been with the same coach. Well, we have a lot of procedural penalties, regardless of if it's a rookie quarterback in there, veteran quarterback, the most vet quarterback in the league right now in Joe Flacco, or a defense that is considered to be one of the best in the league, still having offsides, encroachments, all of these different things. You can get
Don't
mad
forget
about a
special teams either. Bill
oh well.
Belichick was he lived and died by special teams. I mean, he cared so much about special teams, almost to a fault, and you see the result there and the reason there. And that's one of the worst areas for us, of course. So, yeah, it's like all phases here.
It is all phases. You want to get into some of the media reactions, though. I feel like and again, we're going to reiterate some of our points, but I don't want to completely beat the dead horse here. But here's a first one. Eric, you want to read what one RG3 had to say?
Yeah, RG3 still comments on Cleveland football, which I love, but he said the Cleveland Browns had a rookie QB in Dylan Gabriel making his first career start and threw 2 touchdowns with no turnovers on foreign soil. Had a rookie running back run for 110 yards, had a defense force 2 turnovers and get 3 sacks, and still lost. That's a coaching issue.
Now, I will say RG3, the analyst, is not one of my even top 100 analysts I've ever listened to in my lifetime, but I think he makes a valid point here. And I think he speaks to a lot of Cleveland Browns fans' thought processes coming out of this game. Don't you agree?
I do. I mean, I think you could put it on different phases of the game as well. The defense let us down at the end. Clock management and what Stefanski was doing play calling wise let us down. The offense once again not getting a first down let us down, or throw I know it's a play call, but throwing for it on third and down or third and long there when we really want to keep the clock run. Like each phase we kind of failed at during that game. So I don't put it on one person, but yeah, for the most part, it comes down to coaching.
Yeah, I mean, coaching, I think, has been a big highlight. Last year, you can kind of mix it up because they went in a different direction and they brought in Ken Dorsey, who's a different type of offensive mind. And the season fell apart for the reasons it fell apart. We were putting all our chips on Deshaun Watson, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
This year, though, going 1-4 with now a quarterback in that for all intents and purposes, Kevin Stefanski loves, a quarterback that has worked in this system before, and we're still seeing some of the issues, it it just exacerbates what's going on here even more. And
But
I think that's the main reason the seat is starting to get so hot too.
do you not question though I guess, scouting of talent there with one Joe Flacco? Because after one game, we all said, not the guy. And I get it. Maybe the chips were already on the table. There's no takesy backsies at this point, but I think it was pretty clear that football's kind of moved on from this guy. Just the way he moves in the pocket.
Yeah.
Do you think
I
it's more
think
hesitation of not wanting to burn out a rookie?
Well, yeah, that too. I think the original plan was Kenny Pickett. And then when Kenny Pickett was out for most of camp with the hamstring injury, well, they had to go to what was the safety net in Joe Flacco. Now, I think, and we've talked about it here before on the show, that they were planning to use Joe Flacco a little bit longer and thought he had a little bit left in the tank compared to what we ended up seeing on the field. I would say he had what, one game? The Bengals game? It was the
Yeah.
closest we've seen him look to what he looked like in 23 and bits and pieces in 24 with the Colts. Other than that, I mean, it was week 2, week 3. It was all right. The eye test is no longer being passed. It's time to figure out what you have in the rookies already for the betterment of the team, not even just because, oh, the season is lost.
You know what's funny about that too, Noah, is have already forgotten that Kenny Pickett was a part of this football team because
Right.
he
And
we never saw him.
no, we never even saw him in the preseason. I got to see him at training camp a little bit, and he did impress in certain ways, but that doesn't matter. He's backing up Geno Smith, who's also looking like he's regressing right now for the Raiders. We talked about that in yesterday's episode. Go check that out if you haven't, because one, Damian Lillard had some choice words for the Cleveland Browns and Shador Sanders in question. I got another quote to bring up, unless you got something you want to touch on real quick off of what I
Y
said.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, all these thoughts about coaching, and I know what you're going to, so I'll prep it real quick. There was a guy in Cleveland already, that maybe we shouldn't have run him out of town. We didn't run him out of town, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel. This is from my guy Big Jake CLE, Jake Hurricane. We interact on Twitter sometimes. Letting Vrabel walk to keep Stefanski will haunt the Browns. And I think this is a hindsight is 2020 type of take, but what do
It's
you
a good
think?
take though. Because we all kinda said it when Vrabel came in here is that he's the next coach of the Cleveland Browns. Either Day was getting fired and he was gonna coach the Buckeyes at the time because the issues with Michigan, or Stefanski was getting fired and he was gonna be the coach of the Browns. Neither of those situations panned out for the better, I would say, when it comes to Day, not so much when it comes to the Browns.
Yeah, I still think it's hindsight 2020. I mean, we're talking about a guy that came in here as like special counsel or whatever the hell his title was. He was here 2 days a week. He really became the O line coach when he got the O line coach. I don't even remember his name. That's how irrelevant he is. Uh, Ended up fizzling out after like 2 weeks of practice last year. So to me, like, yes, Vrabel is the box checking option for a lot of Cleveland fans who want a fiery guy, who want this players football level coach that doesn't have to do all this analytic stuff that we've been dealing with since D Podesta and Sashi Brown, and honestly since Haslam's come in here.
Yeah.
But
Successful
again,
coach too, by the way.
well, yes and no. He was fired from his prior
Well, it was
employment before.
Tennessee. I mean, to be fair, the Titans, another organization that's, just as dysfunctional as the Browns. So I'm not sure that it's on Vrabel on, how he ultimately did there and why he got fired.
Yeah, that's fair points back and forth, but hindsight is always 2020. That's like saying we should have drafted Patrick Mahomes and let him sit behind whoever
Well,
we
we
had,
should
Josh
have.
McCown or whatever. Right, but we could do that all day, every day. The reason Vrabel was here was to basically have a bridge job until he got a coordinator or a head coaching job, in which he did for the New England Patriots this year, and they've been looking good, by the way, which good for them, I guess.
Definitely. And real quick, by the way, because you talked about the other day Stefanski and how well he has done in the past. I just want to point out that for me, pound for pound, one of the best coaches in the NFL is Andy Reid. and even he was let go with the Eagles. Like, his time just came to an end, and I feel like we're pushing past the Stefanski era at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if it continues to go down the path that it is, there's no argument to be had, even for the stoutest of Stefanski defenders, uh, to continue to keep this guy. The biggest thing for me right now is it does not feel like he's lost the locker room. That is something me and you have agreed on, even
Yeah.
despite all of this. And until we feel that point, which I know that is catastrophe, press button to eject, a quarterback that isn't in rhythm, an offense that isn't in rhythm, all of this stuff can be fixable, and we've seen him succeed in the league before.
But here's my question. How do we fix it? Because my answer would be, okay, no more Kevin Stefanski offensive play calling. Period. Like, you're done. You can't override. If you want to go for it on fourth down, that's great. That can be your decision, but the OC makes the play call, okay? No more offensive play calling. My point, what I'm getting at, is he keeps saying it's my fault. I have to do better. We see the same clock management issues. We see the same lack of in-game adjusting. We see the same poor offense. So what has he been doing for the last couple years saying that in front of the microphone that he's been doing better? Because
No,
for
I
me,
agree.
if I were the head coach, you put me in charge of the Cleveland Browns tomorrow, I don't think it's probably going to go well. But if you did that and I had a terrible game and I go and I look back and I go, okay, this was a terrible play call, I'm going to change for the next game. I'm going to try something different. He doesn't do that. And I think that's the biggest frustration with Browns fans.
Yeah, here's another clip that kind of echoes your point, I think, pretty well from 92.3 The Fan earlier Monday morning.
I wouldn't make any kind of a coaching move. I like Kevin. I think he's a good coach. We've all been around this too long. This is the type of stuff that gets people fired. And this is the type of stuff that gets people fired. You've gone 10 straight games scoring 17 or fewer points. People pay the price when teams do things like the Browns are doing right now. And I just think that we should all pay attention to this. I also think this, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing happens here right now,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I don't think it should. If nothing happens now, I think that's telling. And I say that for this reason. This is the type of a situation that gets coaches fired. It's also the type of a situation that gets general managers fired.
Yeah, yesterday was.
And if nothing happens here and they go on with business as usual, I think that tells you a lot about where the organization is, that they're thinking long term, that they think this is not the team this year, but we think it might be the team in a year or two. And that's why we're not making any changes.
I saw
I
you
hate
roll your
to say
eyes.
I am rolling my eyes because, again, replace what I just said with Stefanski and now add in leadership or management or ownership. This isn't our year. We're building for the future. We're thinking, how many futures have we been hearing this for since 1999? And I'm not saying, obviously, the Haslams didn't own them in 99, but you get what I'm saying. We keep saying that over and over and over. And one year, the excuse is we miss on the draft. The next year, the excuse is the quarterback. The next year, the next year, the next year. I mean, at what point are we going to say enough is enough? Like, that's all fine and dandy. But again, the issues that I pointed out that aren't getting changed haven't changed. So, future or not, future be damned, like, we're in the present and it's looking terrible.
Right, but you don't take this year as a retool year anyway, as a rebuild year, even if we don't want to admit that. Like I get what you're saying because we have been down this road of having to figure out what's going on with the Cleveland Browns and oh well we don't have a quarterback so we're not going to be great this year but we're not really upset with the coach because of X Y and Z. I get all of that. But what is the answer to fix that? That isn't hopefully hitting on a quarterback in the draft. That isn't continuing to build a roster that you started really strong with new fundamental pieces in the 2025 draft. I mean, I would love for this team to be a Super Bowl contender today, but I said it beforehand, and I'm optimistic as optimistic can be about my Cleveland sports teams that this was not a year for the Browns to do anything of note.
Sure, but do you think next year is? Do you think I mean, if we're being I want to be as realistic as possible. We are nowhere near a Super Bowl. We're not even close. I think there are great defensive pieces and the defense looks good, but we are nowhere freaking close to a Super Bowl. So we keep saying that, but Miles Garrett's time is running out. And I said before we should just trade him and get as much draft capital and pieces as we can get because you get a haul for him. I don't know now if people want to pay for him, but you'd get a haul still, I'm sure. And I love the guy, but we are so far away from that, Noah. Like when I watch other football teams, teams that, by the way, I think are going to lose in the first round of the playoffs, even if they make the playoffs, they look so much better than us.
Let me ask you this. You put Jaden Daniels on the Cleveland Browns roster right now. Where is this team at?
With this O line and receiver core,
Yeah.
probably a mid playoff team, maybe with a first round exit. Maybe.
Okay. Now you add a one offensive lineman.
Okay.
Where are they at? Are they at the same spot for you?
Here's here's the problem.
Don't
You have to
don't
no,
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 no, no,
no, no, I'm
don't
gonna answer
avoid
your
my
question.
question.
No, I'm
Okay.
gonna answer your question because here's the problem. You have to be the funny thing is this year would probably be the year, but in a normal year, you have to beat the Bills, one of the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens. I know Chiefs and Ravens don't look very good so far this year, but you have to go through the slaughter, and maybe that's changing. Maybe the landscape's changing and it's gonna be more balanced in the AFC. But adding one or two guys doesn't get it done. That's my point. We had teams that have been built. I mean, take the Baltimore Ravens as an example. I don't want to talk about this year, but let's look at last year. This is a team that should be competing for Super Bowls. Same with the Buffalo Bills. Even they haven't made it. So we are just so far away from that. That's what I'm getting at. Like because I don't think we're a piece or two away. I think we're several.
I don't know if I completely agree with it. I think there needs to be a lot of help and changes on the offensive side of the ball, but I think this defense is Super Bowl ready today. I think that the special teams, if they had a different coach, would be, I don't know. It's so hard because the NFL is so volatile. I could see us, God forbid, we hit on a quarterback, and that is all we need to turn around and say, hey, we're good, and we win 11 games and we make a conference championship or something like that. Maybe I'm delusional in that thought process, but
I think you
oh,
are a little because these quarterbacks, I mean, look at CJ Stroud looked like a world beater. And now, granted, they just got a big win over the weekend, but now for the second year in a row, his third year in the league, he's regressed so much. I mean, I think people talk about we put too much emphasis on the quarterback. I think that's crazy because finding your guy is such an important part of this league in a
yeah.
pass league. I agree with you. Our defense is stout. I mean, I don't even put the blame on them in that game in that fourth quarter. When you have 3 quarters of shut down football and you turn the ball over 2 times in your favor, actually collected that too. I mean, we talk about the defense not being one that forces turnovers. Now they're doing that. They're turning it up and we can't capitalize like we should. We can't get one first down to keep them off the field at the end of a game. I don't blame the defense there. So I'm with you on that. This defense, you pair this defense with, I don't know, name your offense that could make a Super Bowl. Yeah, I think it's a hell of a team. But I do think that I think the offense is far away. I don't think the special teams is that great. But third and most important, arguably, I think we're a long way away with coaching too.
Right, and that goes back to the Kevin Stefanski argument, and if we need to move on from him, I my eyes are all on what happens with the coaching this week. We cannot have procedural penalties anymore. We cannot have poor clock management. We cannot have all of these weird, intricate, like there's no margin for error there anymore. I don't think for this coaching staff. I want to play another clip. This one's a little more outlandish. Eric, you sent it to me today. I just want to get a reaction off of this one. This is from the Big Play Sports Network.
But if they decided to go with more of a culture guy to move off of this Deshaun Watson thing and bring in somebody like John Gruden, I think it.
my goodness.
I really think that there's a good football brain in there, especially at the quarterback position. Which, if we're being honest about this entire thing, that's the Achilles heel as to why the wheels of this train have come off the track is because of the quarterback spot. Anyways,
I uh I
I'm so
I
split on this take, but let's hear what you think.
I'm not. I'm all the way good because that's the last thing we need is another guy with some more baggage in Cleveland.
Yeah, I don't mean split on like I want him or I don't want him. I'm split on whether or not he can be a good coach again, is what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like he has the same issues that Urban Meyer has. I think John Gruden and Urban Meyer are both good football minds and good football coaches. But there's too much baggage and they're kind of a joke of the league. Like they both rehashed their image a little bit, but I don't know, man. I don't know how that he's winning his lawsuits, by the way. I don't know if you were aware of that.
No, I saw. I didn't even know the extent of the lawsuits until I was reading it after that today. Um, I just laugh, man, because it's like, yeah, let's bring in John Gruden, and then we'll have Deshaun Watson, and then why don't we bring in Tyreek Hill as well? I think that would be a great addition. It's just continuing to rehash the same old song and dance. We might as well start getting comped for referring to that song at this point because I use it as a example all the time. But I'm
I
good.
told you who I want.
Who do you
I
want?
want Brian Flores. I think you name Brian Flores as head coach. I think first of all, we know he got the shaft and we know that story there, but I think he's a very competent head coach. He's a defensive minded guy. And then you bring in a really strong OC. I don't know who that is off the top of my head, but kind of like how Ohio State brings in a big OC or a big DC, do it the same way. Let them run the offense. That's their baby, and all the glory to them if they do well. But you be that leader of men. You shape the game plan and your coaching staff, but you let the others do their job. And I think that's the biggest critique of Stefanski. We know that he can be a good OC. We saw it in Minnesota. Granted, it was years ago, and I think his schemes are a little dated at this point, but we know he has that level of talent. But to do that and to also run the rest of the game, it doesn't work typically. There's a reason guys like Belichick brought in Matt Patricia. Belichick's a defensive genius, and he still has another guy coming in to run his defense because that's not what a head coach does. And we've gone back and forth over the years with this with Stefanski. I don't want to beat a dead horse again, but that's my pick. I would put Brian Flores. I'd offer him the job tomorrow, probably.
Yeah, I like Brian Flores as an option as well for the Cleveland Browns if we get to that point, but I'm not ready to put the cart before the horse. And I still think, even if you don't want to hear it or fans don't want to hear it, but I don't think the Haslams are even remotely in the spot of putting Stefanski's seat to the warm setting, to the lukewarm setting, even just because that's how they've acted.
I don't
Um,
know.
but again, if it continues to go down the rabbit hole in which we are seeing right now with the media outrage and all of that, you can't fix everything.
And I will say that I give the Haslams credit there because 99% of the time I would be arguing for stability. Typically, when you replace a head coach, especially midseason, you don't get better. Those aren't decisions that typically result in a better team or a better franchise. Staying with a guy does. But guys can also overstay their welcome a little bit. So it's a bit of a catch-22, but I do want to give praise there where it's due that the Haslam sticking with a guy instead of that constant evolving door of a lot of nobodies too. I mean, think of who we
Yeah.
promoted to head coach over the years that had no business. Freddie Kitchens comes to mind, had no business being a head coach of an NFL football team. And yet we are giving him a shot. So I give the Haslams credit there, but I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. If it turns around, we win some games, we look good, we go into next year feeling good. But how many times is that going to happen? How many times will we win a couple more games? He looks good. It's turned around. Then we go into next season with these high expectations only for them to crash. Like
Well,
at a certain point, you got to move on.
I think that's the difference, though, is the reason this is so bad, and I'm on the side of his seat should be hot, his seat should be warm, is that this has been historically the worst stretch of his career as the Browns head coach. We're talking about the win-loss record being bad, the offense being abysmal, whereas other years where we've had things go up and down, it was, there's reason for it. And I know you're going to say that's an excuse, but I'm thinking of like the year with Baker and the torn labrum, for example, and other years, then we look pretty decent. So it's hard to really justify this type of thing. And maybe it ends up being Kevin Stefanski is a good coach and he's overstayed his welcome or whatever that looks like.
Keep in mind
It's,
too that, the Browns are the first head coaching job that Kevin Stefanski has ever had. He spent
yeah,
14 seasons in Minnesota, and granted, yeah, he rose his way through the coaching ranks, but I don't know. He never had the requisite experience, quote unquote. And I'm not saying that guys like that should be left off or whatever, but when we talk about fixing these problems, they're not problems that he's necessarily faced before or knows or is equipped to fix, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. You would hope he would lean on a guy like Jim Schwartz, who has coached he's been a head coach before. He's been in a lot of different moments to help him with that kind of thing. Even though it's offense versus defensive mind, but just talking through situations. I don't know
Or
the
even,
answer to
yeah,
that.
learn, right? I mean, Schwartz was terrible for Detroit, but I'm sure he has some advice to learn from that. He's not
Right.
a dumb guy. Yeah, I agree with you.
I think we should wrap this episode up with this. I want to go through and just read you some of our comments from our viewers,
Okay.
because I think it really just nails home the rest of how Cleveland's feeling, even 48 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours, whatever the exact math is,
Can we
since the Browns
include your
lost this game.
grandma? Because that was
Yeah.
my favorite text from you.
So we have fire everyone, get rid of him. Stefanski has no eye for talent. Find a way, Browns. Dot 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 to lose in any way. I have no idea anymore. And then you're referring to my grandma's. If we get to 0 and 11, will it then be time to fire him? Was the one that I was talking to you about. Because I was saying that he needs to play or coach more, which I think you've come around to a little bit instead of just fire him today. But, you know,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm more of a fan at the end of the season. I agree. And I was a little hot in yesterday's take, and I was a little hot Sunday. Like, yeah, for sure. But if we don't see a marked change, then yeah, the rubber needs to meet the road at some point.
the rubber does need to meet the road indeed. This Kevin Stefanski situation is going to be the key in continuing to watch what happens with the Cleveland Browns and what happens with this team moving forward. It's going to be really interesting. I don't know. Buckle up.
Well, we're going into Pittsburgh week. So I'm so split. I do really like what I saw from Dylan Gabriel. I think he was hamstrung a little in the play calling. And yes, there were some plays. You showed me a play where uh
He had a,
Njoku
yeah.
wide open up the seam for a touchdown, probably. I mean, the only guy in his way was a ref. So yeah, he missed too, don't get me wrong, but um I don't know. I, I'm still positive in a way. I'm just also fed up every single
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, and you mentioned the game plan being conservative for Dylan Gabriel, and I don't think that part of the game plan is a knock on Stefanski at all. Dylan
No.
Gabriel, rookie quarterback, going against a Brian Flores defense for his first start. Being a little conservative there makes sense. We praised Ryan Day and Brian Hartline for being conservative in the Texas game with Julian Sainz first start, so I have to, be glass half full both ways. But that wasn't the main issue with the Browns on Sunday in London. The main issue was procedural penalties, clock management, the same old song and dance that we see time and time again with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, you also see a shift in how they can become ultra conservative though, and you mentioned it. They try not to lose the game instead of trying to win the game.
Right.
Go away from what's working all of a sudden. So that's frustrating, as a fan watching, but
100%.
it will be interesting. It's officially hate week, because obviously Steelers week, big rivalry. I'm excited still, but we'll see what happens. And I don't know. I don't know. We might
Neither
be
do
in
I.
the same conversation next week, but we keep coming back, man.
Hey, one little tidbit real quick. If you ever remember in your history, Steelers week is when things start to shake and jive in terms of is it time to move on from X, Y, and Z? So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in this game because if it is a blowout to a Pittsburgh team that I do think is beatable from any team in the NFL could beat them. Defense taking a step back, whatever. Yeah, I've seen this song and dance before. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, we will find out. Noah, the debate never ends, but the show does for now. We'll see you next time.